A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to online classes. I am Jaya Verma, and today in Sociology I will start chapter 2, the demographic structure of the Indian society. So let's start the chapter. Demography is the systematic study of population. So what is demography? Demography is the systematic study of population. The term is of Greek origin. This term is originated from Greek word and it is composed of two words, that is demos means people, and graphen means to describe, that is to the description of the people. And so we can say that demography is the systematic study of the population. Then demography studies the trends and processes associated with population, including what is the change in size of the population, what is the pattern of births, pattern of deaths and migration, and the structure and composition of the population. Structure and composition of population means like relative proportion of women, men and different age groups. So there are different varieties of demography. This demography is divided into two. First is formal demography and the other one is social demography. So what is formal demography? Under formal demography is a largely quantitative field, and social demography which focuses on the social, economic or political aspects of the population. And all these demographic studies are based on processes of counting such as the census or the survey, which involve the systematic collection of data on the people residing within a specified territory. Means under the formal demography, we do census of the people, कि उनको count करके then we put the number which the people which are staying in a specified territory. And on the other hand, we have social demography. That is, social demography. Demographers believe that social processes. Sociologists, they seek to trace the social reasons that account for population trend. So, demography is a field that is of special importance to sociology. Means if you have to study sociology, then demography is important to study sociology. In fact, the emergence of sociology and its successful establishment as an academic discipline owed a lot to demography. So sociology is important for academic discipline demography. So two different processes happen to take place at roughly the same time in Europe. The first thing which took place in Europe in the latter half of the 18th century was the formation of the nation states as the principal form of political organization. So, nation states was formed as the principal form of political organization, and there was beginning of the modern science of statistics. So, the modern state had begun to expand its role and functions. So, modern state has spread out its role and functions, and it had, for instance, began to take an active interest in the development of early forms of public health management. So it started taking interest in the development and in public health management, policing and maintenance of law and order and economic policies which were related to agriculture and industries, then taxation and revenue generation and the governance of the cities. Now, the new and constantly expanding sphere of state activity that was required, that should be systematic and regular collection of social statistics should be done, or quantitative data on various aspects of the population and economy. Means it should be done regularly, regular collection of data should be there. So the practice of the collection of social statistic by the state is in itself much older. The first census was done in the American census of 1790 was probably the first modern census. So the first modern census was done in America, that was in 1790, and the practice was soon taken up in Europe as well as in early 1800. So in India, census began to be conducted by the British Indian government between 1867 to 72, and after regular 10 yearly, these census have been conducted since 1881. So British Indian government started the census in India and in 1867 to 72, and after that, after every 10 years, this census is being done since 1881. So independent India continued the practice, and seven decennial census had been conducted since 1951. So since 1951, what has been done? 7 census has been done, and the most recent was done in 2011. The Indian census is the largest such exercise in the world, that since China, which has a slightly larger population, it did not conduct regular census. So demographic data are important for the planning and implementation of state policies. If you want to do development in the country, then first of all thing you have to do the census, and according to that you will do the economic development and general for the general public welfare. So but when they first emerged, social statistics also provided a strong justification for the new discipline of sociology. Aggregate statistics, or the numerical characteristics that refer to a large collectivity consisting of millions of people. They offers a concrete and strong argument for the existence of social phenomena. So even though country level or state level statistics like the number of deaths per 1000 population or the death rate are made up by aggregating or adding up, means death rate, birth rate, or individual deaths, the death rate itself is a social phenomenon, and it but must be explained at social level. So Emile Durkheim's famous study explaining the variations in suicide rates across different countries was a good example of this. So Durkheim argued that the rate of suicide, that is number of suicides per 1 lakh population, had to be explained by social causes, even though each particular instance of suicide may have involved reasons specific to that individual or his or her circumstances. We don't know what circumstances individual are, they have to face it and they commit suicide. So sometimes a distinction is made between formal demography and a broader field of population studies. Formal demography is primarily concerned with the measurement and analysis of the components of population change, and it focuses on a quantitative analysis, means कितने births कितने, deaths कितने, how many people migrated from here, how many marriages have been done, and how many have been divorced. In सबका सबका numbers you have to calculate them and you have to keep it in record. Highly developed mathematical methodology suitable for forecasting population growth and changes in the composition of the population. Then population studies or social demography, on the other hand, inquires into the wider causes and consequences of the population structure and change. So social demographers says that social processes and structures, they regulate this demographic processes, and sociologists says that they seek to trace the social reasons that account for population trends. So students, after this we have to study some theories and concepts in demography. So the first concept is the Malthusian theory of population growth. So among the most famous theories of demography is the one associated with the English political economist Thomas Robert Malthus, that is 1766 to 1834. Malthus' theory of population growth, outlined in his essay on population, that is in 1798, was a rather pessimistic one. He argued that human population tend to grow at a much faster rate than the rate at which the means of human subsistence, especially food, but also clothing and other agriculture-based products, can grow. He said that human population is growing much faster than the production which is being done in this country. So, therefore, humanity is condemned to live in poverty forever because the growth of agricultural production will always be overtaken by population growth. So while population rises in geometric progression, the population is rising according to geometry, and agricultural production is growing like arithmetic progression. Like a geometric progression is like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and an arithmetic progression is that is 2, 4, 6, 8, then 10, then 12. So it is growing very slowly. So because population growth always outstrip growth uh, in production of subsistence resources. So unfortunately, humanity has only a limited ability to voluntarily reduce the growth of its population through preventive checks. So population can be controlled. It can be controlled through preventive checks such as postponing the marriages or practicing sexual abstinence or celibacy, that is not to marry. Then Malthus believed that therefore positive checks to population growth in form of famines. See, positive checks means population growth बहुत ज़्यादा है, and how it will be controlled that in form of famines and diseases. Population ज़्यादा होगी, production कम होगा, the population will be poor only. And other thing that is positive checks means nature has to keep it balanced. Then famines will come, diseases will be spread. Nowadays corona is being spread all over the world. Then were inevitable because they were nature's way of dealing with the imbalance between food supply and increasing population. And we can say that when marriages can be stopped by preventive checks, and population growth can be slowed down by positive checks like forms of famines, diseases, and so on so forth, because nature have to keep it balanced in food supply and increasing population. So Malthus theory was influential for a long time, but it was also challenged by the theorists who claimed that economic growth could outstrip population growth. When Malthus theory was influential for a long time, but it was challenged. Some other theorists challenged this theory. They said that economic growth can overstrip, can move faster than population growth. How we can say this? See here, the power of population is so superior to the power of the earth to produce subsistence for man that premature death must in some shape. Premature death in natural disasters people die or other visit the human race. The vices of mankind are active and able ministers of depopulation. They are the precursors in the great army of destruction and often finish the dreadful work themselves. But should they fail in this war of extermination, sickly seasons, epidemics, pestilence, and plague advance in terrific array and sweep off their thousands and tens of thousands. So, should success be still incomplete? Gigantic, inevitable famine stalks in the rear and with one mighty blow levels the population with the food of the world. So this was said by Thomas Malthus in his essay Principle of Population in 1798. So now, however, the most effective refutation of his history was provided by the historical experiences of European countries. So we can experience this by historical experience which the European countries had. The pattern of population growth began to change in the later half of the 19th century. So the pattern of population have changed in the later half of the 19th century, and by the end of the first quarter of the 20th century, these changes were quite dramatic. And by the quarter half of the 20th century, these changes were quite dramatic. We can't imagine it. Birth rates declined and outbreaks of epidemic diseases was also controlled. So Malthus' prediction were proved false because both food production and standards of living continued to rise despite the rapid growth of population. So Malthus theory here, it was proved false because food production and standard of living, they continued to there was rapid rise in the growth of the population and in the production. So Malthus was also criticized by liberal and Marxist scholars for asserting that poverty was caused by population growth. The critics also argued that problems like poverty and starvation were caused by the unequal distribution of economic resources rather than by population growth. So, if there is poverty, we can say that it is due to unequal distribution of economic resources, because these resources are distributed not evenly, but most of these resources are in the hands of the rich people and they exploit the poor people. An unjust social system allow a wealthy and privileged minority to live in luxury, and the vast majority of the poor people, they are forced to live in poverty by these rich people, because these rich people, they will lead a luxury life and the poor people will lead a poor life. So students, this is all for today. I hope you must have understood the lecture. It is a very simple and very easy lecture and very easy chapter. So thank you and have a nice day.